What is up, Scruff Fam? I am back with another Meta Talks, doing a breakdown of the Core TCG event that just wrapped yesterday? This morning? Either way, whatever. But before I get started, let me give a shout out to my sponsor, Beard Collectibles. Alec Pastrana is the best shop owner on the planet. If you're looking at your sealed product for this upcoming set, the World Martial Arts Tournament, you get it through Alec Pastrana and Beard Collectibles. Best prices on the market today, especially if you're looking to get a full-size case. You can get all them SPRs, all them foilies. Best place to go through is Alec Pastrana and Beard Collectibles. If you're looking to get a 3-issue production shirt, check me out on the Patreon, or you can check the link below. It'll be in the description, or you can go directly to the Bearded website and order yourself a shirt for 3-issue Productions. Update for all those who are subscribed to the Patreon. Next round of shirts are going out to the 1337 patrons today. I'm going to be ordering all the shirts for you guys today, so that'll be really exciting. And then, in general, if you haven't submitted deck lists to me, if you haven't scheduled playtesting sessions with me, we need to go ahead and get that started. I put my schedule up on the page itself so you can see it if you need to do playtesting. And then otherwise, if you need to get in contact with me for deck lists, you just reach out to me via Facebook Messenger. But anyway, let's jump into this super exciting event. So, Core TCG came around, and this event it finished exactly how I expected it to finish, and it had the same exact paradigm which I expected to be presented to us, which, number one, you have, like, red-blue SS3 is, like, the straight and narrow, like, it is the deck right now, like, you know, and that's what everyone had it in their minds as kind of, like, public enemy number one going to this event, which, you know, talking last week, if you look at everything that I was talking about on the Patreon articles last week, everything was about blue-yellow and how that was coming, and how this week would be the coming out party of that, and so this really was. This week was the coming out party of blue-yellow, especially of the Hoover variety, and you just saw how powerful it was. And so you had red blue SS3 that was like right in the middle, walking straight and narrow. He's being a good boy. He was a fair deck. And then to his left, he had the Taxes decks, or the Vegeta Lock decks, and then to the right, you had the blue-yellow Storm decks. And shout out to the chat, who spent way too much time talking about how, like, the deck wasn't Storm. I thought that was pretty funny. And I already explained the reasoning behind the reason why the deck, I called it Storm, is because when I first played the deck, like when I first built the Trunks build, and I was doing attacks, I was counting my attacks, and I was just like, and I made a joke, I was just like, Storm count 1. Every single time I would cast a new card, I'd be like, Storm count 2. And I would just keep swinging, and I was just counting how many attacks I generated per turn. And so that's how I just kind of coined it as the Storm deck. But in general, enough of that. I shouldn't have to justify my reasonings for deck names to you people. Otherwise, it's caught on. Everyone's calling it Storm, so keep fighting the good fight out there, trying to make it not called Storm. Storm is just way easier to say. But so we knew that that deck would be coming out this weekend, right? That was my prediction, and of course it came to fruition. And not only that, but the best blue-yellow Storm player in the game won the event, which no surprise, right? And so I'll go over that briefly in just a few minutes. But so you had the Lock deck, and then you have the Storm decks, and then you had SS3 and they're right in the middle. And so the issue is the way the format is since everything's so compressed, like blue-red SS3 beats like a large portion of the field. Any other fair deck, red-blue SS3 is the best of the fair decks, right? It beats blue-green SS3, mono-blue SS3, Pan, like all these decks. It just dumpsters, like, really easily, because Foreseeing Hit and Chain Attack Trunks are cards. And then you had the Lock decks, like, so Taxes, that beats SS3 straight up, and it also beats a lot of the other fair decks. So any deck that's trying to play anything on turn 4 and beyond just gets locked out by the Vegeta Lock deck, and it's still sort of a Storm pseudo combo deck. And then you had blue-yellow Hoover, which not only beats, like, 90% of the field, but it also just absolutely destroys red-blue SS3. And so that brings us to the conversation we're having today, and of course the results of Core TCG as you saw. So let's go ahead and dive into some of the facts from the weekend. So number one, let's go over the winner of the weekend. Usually I do a card, but for this I'm actually going to do a person. The winner of the weekend was Shenron Layers' Chris Welch. Chris messaged me the day before on Friday and said making a last-minute trip to the Core TCG event, and because he was feeling supremely confident that he would go out there and he would win the event. And reason being, he's a part of the infamous, you know, Pat O'Neill's Discord chat, which contains myself, Pat O'Neill, Richard Zapp, and Chris, and all we do is brew, we talk, we test, and we get these ideas out there, and we get the ratios tweaked. And so Chris and I had been working a lot on the blue-yellow decks, and our lists are like slightly different, like they're tweaked here and there, and they're all in preparation for not just what's there, but also the mirror. And so, like, he came to the tournament, he was 100% prepared, and he had the best version of the deck for that day. And a lot of people don't realize that. Like, a lot of people saw the one on camera that played like minus Killy Zone and like would just try and rush people down and kill them like on turn 2. And it's like Chris's deck did the same exact thing, but it was also just way better in the mirror because it played 3 Nimbus main, he played blockers, like the free gene blockers, and he played Bardock Ape, which, like, a lot of people are saying they don't like that version, but honestly, like, yeah, you have to play Planet, but once you put a Bardock down, like, it's kind of game over. And also the best part about running Planet in your deck is you can spend your first turn, instead of playing a Bardock, the Progenitor, you can actually spend your first turn on a Planet and go get a Goten or go get an Unyielding. Like, and your deck is now just more consistent. So it's like you're trading some little things here and there to just add some consistency and also add some power to the deck itself. And so Chris, he brought the idea to my attention day one. Like, and so in my opinion, he's the innovator of this style, and I'm so happy I got to collaborate with him on it. Number 2, he's been playing it the longest. We've both been playing it ever since BCC Goten was spoiled, and like he broke the card like instantaneously. We just discovered all the different combos, and then he just pushed it as far as he could, and then we just both continued to innovate and tweak and tune. And then in general, like, he's just the best pilot of the deck itself because he's been doing it the longest. And so all that together, him choosing to go last minute, he completely dominated this tournament. He 2-0'd every opponent he faced except in round 8. He lost game 1, but then won games 2 and 3 after that. We had a good conversation during the tournament because I was watching the Rush versions on camera, and he knew that those decks were there, and I just basically was like, hey, if you're playing against the mirror, like, from what I've seen, you need to have a Flying Nimbus and you need to have Sensu Beans. Like, if you don't have those cards, like, you're just going to lose. And so, like, he went ahead and just, like, mulled hard for those. And so that shows when he played against one of the, like, hyper-aggressive ones, he was able to win. That was one round 8 where he lost game 1, but then game 2 and 3 he ended up winning, like, taking it out. And watching that matchup was actually pretty cool, but watching all the other matchups of Rudigarn was pretty awful. Like, those games are really hard to watch because it's like once Rudigarn takes its second turn, the game is just over, and you just have to sit there until it's over. But huge props to Chris, one of the best players in the game. I know that he was wanting to get this tournament win to kind of get this monkey off his back because he is one of the best there is in the game. And now he's not only one of the best deck builders, but now people can actually start to see that he's actually one of the best players. And Shinron's Lair is no team to be messing with, my friend. Definitely one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the game. And this win was a big win for them. Marcus Cantarsi also had a strong finish playing the same exact deck. The whole team was on Chris's deck, and they all were pretty successful. So great job, Chris. That was the winner of the weekend. Next, we go to the loser of the weekend. Heightened Evolution Super Saiyan 3 Son Goku. You were just a boy. And they sent you out there and they fed you to the monster among men, Rudigarn. You got those hands. Those games weren't even close. And the thing is like the blue-red builds, the mono-blue builds, the blue-green builds, like none of them can handle the way the game is being played against a Rudigarn because they can't win off of 3 energy or 2 energy or defend their life totals enough. And it was hard to watch because those matches just were never even close. The opponent maybe played 2 cards across the course of the game, and all they could do was just combo to try and stay alive. But in general, red, blue, blue, green, mono, blue, SS3 are going to be resting in peace for a while because as long as the boogeyman exists, which is blue, yellow, Rudigarn, SS3 of that variety is not going to be something that is the most advantageous for you to bring to a tournament. I do still think if the field is big enough, so if you're talking about 100, 200 person man events, you could still get a really respectable record and still probably get your invite. But if you're looking to win an event, if you're looking to spike an event, SS3 is not the leader that you want to go with. And you just saw, like I said, you run so many 10Ks, so many 4-drops, like you're not going to be able to play the game in the same exact space that they are. I wrote an article last week called Fighting in a Phone Booth, and essentially that's trying to play the game on 2 to 3 energy and doing it as best as possible, and SS3 just isn't designed to play that game right now. So when you're going and you're building your decks for this week and going forward, especially if you're looking to go to St. Louis next week, you need to take that into account, and you need to start making sure your deck can support those strategies of fighting in a phone booth. So if you're playing yellow, you need to be playing Flying Nimbus. hardcore. You need to be playing Nimbus, Sensu Bean, like whatever you can, and just try and stay alive. You have to test that matchup in and out, because if you can't, then if you can't get there, you can't beat Blue Yellow Hirudegarn, then you can't take the deck to a tournament. It's just not worth it. At that point, you might as well just join them as opposed to trying to beat them. In general, though, there were some people that put up good finishes with SS3, as expected. When people asked me for advice this week, when they asked me what to play, basically my first question was, what are you most comfortable playing with? They said SS3. Well, I said, well, that's what you should play. And then they go, well, do you think I should pivot to Hirudegarn? And my honest opinion is no. If you are not familiar with the sequencing and the archetype and the decisions, the micro decisions that go into each turn, you should not risk playing that deck, because that deck has a high skill cap, and doing it for 8 to 9 rounds at a tournament is very difficult. So in general, shout out to all those that did well with SS3, and hopefully he can make a comeback next week. We'll see how the metagame adapts. Next we have the MVP. The MVP is Scrambling Assaults on Goten. I'm pretty certain you guys saw this on camera probably a record amount of times, the amount of times this card was played, just due to how the game works right now, due to Bardock swapping into this and then fluting it back to hand and then replaying, and just the way that this card works, you know, swinging regardless of negate or not, looking at the top 3 cards of your deck, choosing any of those 1 cards, putting in your hand, and the rest on the bottom. That effect is too powerful for this game, especially on something that is so easy to cheat into play. It only costs you 1 energy total, and you get to basically take that 1 energy and turn it into 2 attacks, one with the Bardock and then swap into the Goten and swing with the Goten. You can swing for game on the Goten, because if you find a Furthering Destruction Champa, you can just kind of go all in on it. And then in general, you just find every piece you need, whether it's Unyielding, whether it's a Sensu Bean, whether if it's, you know, finding something like a Junk Successor to go tutor another card out of the deck and just continue thinning the deck out. Scrambling Assaults on Goten does everything you possibly want it to do. It's one of the best battle cards in the game and the best BCC promo ever printed. And the applications of this card moving forward is what's going to make it really hard for you to play a deck that's outside of yellow, because of the draw engine that Bardock plus this card provides. And so it creates this weird format where if you're not playing the same game as Blue Yellow Hirudegarn, you need to be playing yellow colors in order to keep up with them because of Nimbus. But at the same time, if you play Nimbus, then you have to kind of go into an engine that can generate card advantage for you, and this is kind of the card advantage engine, so you're much better off just building a Blue Yellow Hirudegarn deck that's decked to beat the mirrors a lot better. But in general, that was the MVP of the weekend. I'm pretty sure it needs no explanation, but this card did so much work. And honestly, there's a lot of people that played the deck that didn't necessarily play it incorrectly, but they missed out on a lot of equity with the way they were sequencing their turns. I'm excited to have Chris Welch on for the Winning Edge so we can talk about the way that he sequences his turns. I think that you guys will really get a lot of insight out of that, but I'll save that information for then. Next, we had Tech of the Weekend. Flying Nimbus and Battering Laser. These are the 2 cards featured in the winning decks, whether if they were main deck, sideboarded. This is what you needed to stay alive. You needed a Flying Nimbus, and what you needed to win was a Battering Laser. These were the 2 cards that you needed in your deck in order for you to have a chance at surviving any of these games against these broken, insane Tier 0 decks this past weekend. And honestly, you saw Chris Welch win with a Battering Laser. You saw, you know, people win with Flying Nimbus. You saw games get extended because of Nimbus. Like, these are the 2 cards that you need to be looking out for as this format continues to go, and you need to be looking at these for next week. You need to be ready, and you need to make sure that you're the person that either has more Nimbuses or has more Batterings. So you have to be the guy that's doing one or the other. You're either playing the offensive role, you're playing the beatdown, or you're playing the control role. And trying to do that within a game that only consists of 2 to 3 turns is pretty hilarious. So, happy testing. Format level check. Number 1, just to troll everybody. Blue Yellow Heroes of the Storm. Ha! See what I did there? Heroes of the Storm is level 1. Like, it is the best deck in the format right now. I tell a lot of people that I think the format is now officially solved because of the way that the format is played out, because of Blue Red SS3 being the top deck up until BCC Goten was legal, and that is just the case. And so now, well, since BCC Goten is legal, Heroes of the Storm is the number 1 deck in the format. It's very hard to beat a deck that can win the game consistently on 2 energy, and if you saw that all the course throughout the camera matches, all the Hirudegarn decks were winning on the 2nd turn. Unless they were playing the mirror, then the mirror went to the 3rd turn, because, you know, the people that play the mirror knew how the deck works, and so they know how to combat it. But in general, that's number 1, and number 2 is unknown. Legitimately, there is no There's no hard counter to the deck. There's nothing you can logically think of that's just like, oh, this is how you hard counter the deck itself. Like, no, there's no logical reasoning behind it. Like, people are talking about green and full power energy. No, that doesn't counter it. Like, I tested plenty of games this weekend, and you can't just full power energy the Bardock and think that that wins you the game. Nope. I'll secure the second Bardock. It doesn't matter. Like, and then I'll just start the loop all over again. You maybe delay me by one action, but of course, the course of my turn, I'm going to still have 100 actions that you can't defend yourself with. And once you tap a green, that's one of your energy that you can never use ever again. So that is why you shouldn't think that blue-green SS3 is the hard counter. You can think of yellow decks, and the thing is yellow decks are good, right? So you can play blue-yellow SS3 with Nimbus and some cool cards, but you have to then realize that blue-red SS3 now has the advantage on you because their threats are better at the 4-drop spot, and those games are always going to go that far. And so when you start to look at these decks and you look how they're checked by the majority of the rest of the format, it gets really difficult to try and pinpoint what deck you're going to be playing. And so there's other things you can think about, like blue-red Pan with Sensu Bean and Unending Awakening, and you can start to mess around with that, and how to just continue adding 5k to your leader. But then you have to figure out how you're going to win the other matchups. Like, how are you going to beat blue-red SS3? Again, and it's the cycle that is just dangerous. And, how are you going to beat the Taxes deck? Like, the Taxes deck against Pan is usually pretty low because you're just going to keep, blowing up the energy. They're never going to get to their 4-drops or, any of their high impactful cards. And it's going to be hard for them to play a topo if they're playing blue because they need 2 red. And so it becomes really difficult again. So this is going to be a big week for those that are going to St. Louis to continue playtesting and figuring out if they're going to play what's most comfortable with them, or they're going to try and master the Rudigarn decks. But in general, I'm excited to see how the format progresses and what happens. And I know what I'm going to be testing. It's going to be a lot of blue-yellow stuff. It's going to be a lot of mono-blue stuff with Zeno button, and I think that could actually end up being something that's pretty fruitful. But in general, in order for you to survive in this format now, you need to be able to extend the game, right? You need to be able to extend the game against the opponent. You need to be able to throw them off by being able to reverse pressure on them. And so the only way that you can really do that is play a bevy of defensive cards that can force them to not attack into you. So that's Multi-Sense Beans on a turn, that's Flying Nimbus. And then, like I said, if you need to reverse pressure on them, you need to play stuff like Raging Spirit Sun Gohan. So I really think that decks that use Zeno button can do a really good job of play their 10Ks and then they swing because they think they're going to win, and then or they think they're going to be able to get through, and then you Zeno button them, and then you have your 10Ks up again. But then at the same time, if they battering laser your Zeno button, it feels bad, man. And I think that Battering Laser is going to continue being at 1 in the main deck, if not 2, as we move forward for the Rudigarn Heroes of the Storm decks. But in general, that is the Metatalks Core TCG Regional Breakdown. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know that it was shorter than other ones because I wanted to make it so you guys could not spend too much time watching this. But in general, be on the lookout for the Winning Edge episode this week. It's going to be with Chris Welch, the winner of the Core TCG Regional, which was 500 people. Insane. 9 rounds. Didn't finish until 3 o'clock in the morning on the West Coast. Gross. But in general, I'm kidding. I finished at 3 o'clock a.m. on the East Coast. I'm crazy. I was up until 3 a.m. watching coverage because I'm an animal. But in general, thank you guys so much for everything you do. Thank you for all the support. And I look forward to continue to put out more content, getting the shirts out to the patrons, and then getting all the other reward tiers taken care of. Make sure you message me with your deck list, like I said before, if you haven't, and set up your testing time with me in general. Otherwise, you can look forward to daily articles again this week. It's going to keep happening. My birthday weekend was pretty great, even though I did spend all of Saturday watching coverage before I went out and did crazy shenanigans. But in general, thank you guys for everything. Scrub Fam is best fam. Chris Welch, one of the best in the game. Don't you forget it. Again, shout out to Pat's Discord. Love you guys. Okay, bye!